Hello everybody, and welcome once again to yet another video blog by yours truly. Today I want to direct this one specifically at those friends of mine that also happen to be fans of the defending AFC champion Denver Broncos. Through these first three games, I've kind of started to pay attention to Denver a little bit, as I generally do, being their a rival of my beloved Kansas City Chiefs. And I've noticed some things about Denver and formed a few opinions and thought I would throw them out there rather than trying to type out the whole thing. Some of this stuff that I will go over during the course of this blog I will put with the video description, which you'll find below the video when you are viewing this on the YouTube page. That being said, let's go ahead and get this started a little bit. The Denver Broncos right now are a 2-1 football team. At this point last year, they were undefeated at 3-0. One thing that I have noticed specifically more than anything with this Bronco team is it seems to me, and not only me but other people that I've heard and listened to both on sports television and sports radio, that Denver's production comparative to this point of the season last year has declined. Specifically Peyton Manning, who put up record numbers last year, through three games, had 1,143 yards passing at this point last year, which is an incredible amount of yardage for three games. He had also thrown 12 touchdown passes to the Denver's first three games last year. I'll grant you 7 of those were in one game, but even still. Right now, in this 2014 season through this year, he has thrown for 814 yards and just 8 touchdowns. That is down a little over 300 yards comparative to last year. So clearly the passing offense has declined somewhat here. And that's got to be a concern for John Fox and company. Now, I'll touch on John Fox here in just a little bit. Yeah, as far as what Denver has done at this point, last year they seemed to be a scoring machine. 127 points through the first 3 games of the 2013 season. And thus far this year, only 75 points they have scored through these first 3 games, of which they're 2-1. The first game, of course, the first 2 games were 7-point wins over the Colts and the Chiefs, respectively. And then, of course, this past Sunday was a 26-20 loss to the defending champion Seattle Seahawks in overtime. And I'll give them all the credit in the world for that game last week. After losing by 35 points in the Super Bowl to the Seahawks team, they went into a very hostile environment there in Seattle. They were down 17-3 at the half and somehow came back and tied the ball game and put it in overtime. And then the Seahawks did the one thing that if you're playing Peyton Manning you want to do, and that's keep the ball out of his hands. They took the first possession of overtime, put it in the end zone, game, set, and match, the whole thing is done. Seattle does what any team needs to do against a Denver Bronco-like offense, and that's play good defense. And while I'm on that tangent, this is the second week in a row the Denver offense has gone an entire half without a touchdown. The Chiefs game, the Chiefs defense, which is down at least 3 starters, maybe more, actually held the Broncos out of the end zone for the entire second half of that ball game. They did get a field goal, but did not have a second half touchdown in that game. The Seahawks game, the Seattle defense, of course, kept him out of the end zone for the entire first half of that ball game. All of Denver's touchdowns coming in the second half of that game, which easily their best second half of the season out of the first 3 weeks. But again, that production down. Peyton Manning dropping from 1,143 yards a year back after 3 games to 814 now. Something clearly isn't right. I've thought about it. Maybe not having Wes Welker there is affected because he doesn't have his underneath go-to guy. I know right now his top receiver as far as yardage and receptions is Emmanuel Sanders statistically. So that's one thing that has probably helped him in Welker's absence there. Another thing that's interesting to me to look at is to look where the offense is comparative to last year. Now, they finished the 2013 season as the number 1 overall ranked offense in the NFL. And there's no question as to why. And that's the passing offense, which was the number one passing offense in the league, bar none, with the records that Peyton Manning put up. They did have just the 15th ranked rushing offense in the league at the conclusion of the year last year. But that was, by no fault of their own. When you pass that much, that's what's going to happen. This year, thus far through 3 weeks, total offense, they are just 18th in the league of 32 teams. That's the bottom half of the league where they're sitting right now in total offense. Pass offense overall is 9th. So they're still completing. Obviously, they're still passing the football, which is what a Peyton Manning offense does. Don't get me wrong, that's what they do. One thing that did jump out at me is that the rushing offense, which was 15th again at the end of the year last year, 28th in the league right now in rushing. Plainly put, Denver can't run the ball. Not re-signing Knowshon Moreno has had its effects on them. And nothing on Montee Ball. He has 165 yards rushing through 3 games and has scored just 1 touchdown. By comparison, this point last year, Moreno had just 160 yards, so 5 fewer than what Montee Ball has now, and he had 2 touchdowns at this point. Another major thing there is that Montee Ball actually also has 1 fumble lost this season. At this point last year, Moreno did not have any. So you have an issue there with the rushing game, and football is one of those things that you just cannot become one-dimensional. You can try to pass as the day is long, but at some point you've got to establish some control, some ground control, and you got to get the ground game going so you can control the tempo and the clock. And Denver clearly doesn't have that right now. They're going to win a lot of games this year. There's no doubt about that. But there's some things to look at. Now, of course, last year I was harsh on the defense, and the defense this year, let's compare them. Because a lot of you Denver fans out there have told me in the offseason that the defense was better, the defense was going to perform better. How have they done so far? Well, at the end of the 2013 season, the defense was the number 19th defense overall in the league. Again, the bottom half of the league, which no surprise there, being that the pass defense, which was a problem for the Broncos the entire season last year, and that reared its head even in the Super Bowl, the 27th overall ranked defense in its league of 32 teams at the end of the season last year. But they were complemented by the fact they were 7th against the run. They had a phenomenal rushing defense last year. What are they doing this year? Through 3 weeks, Denver has the 28th ranked defense overall in the NFL this year. 28th. That's fairly healthy decline. A lot of people told me the passing defense was going to be better this year with the additions of guys like T.J. Ward and Akeem Talib. Ranked 27th at the end of the 2013 campaign. Denver's passing defense currently 29th overall in the league thus far this year. Not an improvement, clearly a decline. Rushing defense has even declined a little bit. Finished 7th in the league last year, now currently at 11th after 3 games thus far this year. And at some point, somebody's got to take the blame for lack of production. This is some things I've heard over sports radio while I was working graveyard a couple of nights this last week, and I have to agree with first of all with Jay Moore Sports on Fox Radio, and he figures that at the end of this year, if Denver's still not producing at the rate they did last year, and they don't get that championship one, John Fox is probably going to be history. And I'm agreeing. Jay Moore called it. He said he predicts John Fox to be fired at the end of the season. I agree with him. I'll make that prediction as well. John Fox will likely be fired at the end of this season. And I can also see that happening for offensive coordinator Adam Gase if they don't get the offensive production turned around sometime soon. We're in an era of football now where I think pretty much the era of the pocket passer is gone. These teams, both at all levels now, high school, college, professional, are looking for quarterbacks that can not only pick up first downs from throwing the ball, but they look for quarterbacks that can pick up first downs with their legs, the mobile quarterbacks. And that's one thing Denver does not have. Peyton Manning has never been a mobile quarterback, and I know what you're going to tell me. He's had some rushing touchdowns in his career. He had one hell of a bootleg last year, as I recall. It fooled an entire defense. But he's not a guy that's going to get you a lot of first downs and a lot of those scores with his legs. He's going to want to throw the ball. And that's why he takes a lot of sacks, because he doesn't scramble out of the pocket all that often. But we're in an area where the pocket passer is pretty much over and done with. You're going to start to see, as the weeks and the months and the years go by, more and more mobile quarterbacks are going to come in the NFL. That's what they're looking for out of college, which astounds me why guys like Tim Tebow didn't make it. I mean, he was good in Denver and then clearly got him a playoff win, but I guess Elway didn't think he was the future, but that's that. I still don't believe at this point the Denver Broncos are going to be in the Super Bowl again this year. I have stood by my prediction that I felt like the Indianapolis Colts are going to win the conference. They have struggled early in the season. I fully realize that. They did get their first win this past week. I'll grant you it was just over Jacksonville, which is pretty much like a glorified scrimmage as far as the NFL is concerned. But Andrew Luck has got too much talent not to carry this team back into the postseason. And me being a Chiefs fan, I've seen firsthand what they can do in the postseason. And when Luck gets going, watch out. And it's one of the things that I tell you, Denver and Indianapolis rematch in the postseason, it could clearly be a different outcome. That game had ran longer the first week of this season. The Colts may have, in fact, come back and won. I'm going to end this blog by making a little bet with the Denver Bronco fans, since I am so sure and so confident that Denver's not going to return to the Super Bowl this year. If they do, and they get back, and if they win it, they've got to win it. If the Denver Broncos return to and win the Super Bowl, I will shoot another video blog that first week of February. Super Bowl Sunday is February 1st, I do believe. Yes, February 1st. That week, I will shoot and upload a video blog in which that entire blog will be me eating crow and liking it, but I will be wearing a Denver Broncos t-shirt while I am presenting that blog. That is my bet to you, Denver fans. If you don't get back and win the title this year, like I'm predicting, then I'm fine. But if you win it all this year, you will see this die-hard 29-year-long Chiefs fan for the first and will likely be the only time in my life wearing a Denver Broncos t-shirt, because I'm that confident that offensively right now they don't look like they're going to defend that AFC title successfully. You still got Tom Brady, New England, like I said, Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. And even Cincinnati has looked good to start this season. We'll see how good they are come December when Denver plays them. And they're not one to forget about. I don't really know anybody else in the AFC that's going to stand up to Denver, although there is San Diego that tends to take 1 out of 2 from Denver every year. And I've said it before, I believe Denver at best is an 11-5 team this year, and they've lost 1, which I figured they would lose. I thought they might lose to the Colts, and I figured they'll lose 1 to San Diego. I thought maybe the Chiefs would take 1 from them before all this injury stuff started, and they held tough with them in that game in Denver. And if the Chiefs can maintain themselves and not get any more injuries the duration of the rest of the year, by the time they get to that game, it's either late November, early December at Arrowhead, they might be competitive with Denver again. Not saying they're going to win it, but hopefully they'll be competitive. Aside from that, I think if San Francisco can get their stuff together, they'll be competitive with Denver, but they're clearly not looking themselves at this point. One other game on Denver's schedule that interests me in particular is actually a week from now, when they come off that bye week, and their opponent that week is also on a bye week right now, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. Denver's offense, as I've said several times now, production is down. They're not performing at the level they were a year ago at this point. The Arizona Cardinal defense, after last week, after the third week of the season, was the number 6 overall defense in the NFL. They keep playing defense like they have been playing. That's going to give Denver some problems. In particular, and I think a key guy in that game is going to be Arizona corner Patrick Peterson, who is arguably one of the best corners, if not one of the best defensive backs in the league right now. Him and Richard Sherman, I think, are probably there in the top 2. Patrick Peterson, if a ball gets anywhere near him, I don't care if it's Peyton Manning throwing it, it's going to get picked off. He's just one of those kind of players. He's a good corner, and he's not one that I test. I couldn't believe in that game last week, looking at those highlights, that Peyton Manning was daring to put a ball near Richard Sherman. And Richard Sherman actually had a better game last week than what he did in the Super Bowl this past February. So those are guys, you don't tempt that kind of fate. I mean, I realize he did get picked off, Peyton did last week, his first interception of the season, which I can't remember now who had that. I think it was Cam Chancellor picked him off, which I wouldn't put a ball near that young man either. The Seattle secondary is still the Legion of Boom, whether you like it or not. But that's really all I have for this particular video blog. It's not meant to dig on or diss at Denver fans. I just, kind of throw you some facts. I mean, I've been accused of being a stat guy, and I think stats back up wins and losses sometimes. Sometimes they do and they don't. There's arguments made for both, but to look at where Denver is now compared to a year ago, they have clearly slid in production, and that's something that's going to catch up with you. Clearly caught up with them last week as the offense couldn't do anything in the first half against Seattle. They managed to do it in the second half and put it in overtime and still came up a little short. Some say it was a moral victory for Denver because they didn't get blown out again, but either way, it still goes in the loss column, and that counts against you. In the NFL, every game's going to count. So, there it is again, and I don't think they'll be in the Super Bowl. And again, if they win it all this year, you're going to see me in a Denver shirt and a video blog come the first week of February. It's my guarantee. This video is going to be here. So you won't see me crying wolf. That's how confident I feel about it. that happens, I'll be in a Denver shirt. And that's all I've got for this blog. Until next time, that is it. Keep checking back for more blogs, and you find me on the social media. That'll be below in the video description as well. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until next time, this is Terry. See ya later.